Hi there. Anthropogenesis, as I understand it, basically means the restoration of the soul consciousness with the divine consciousness. Having been separated, there must be then unity, and created separate in order for union to occur. So it's the birth of Homo virtuous, which means virtuous man, which is basically the resolution of the divine and the soul consciousness. But here I must begin this lecture by saying that I am of the opinion that soul and God are separate, in the sense that I don't think that there is a unity between soul and God. I think that there is a separateness between them. And there is a separateness, but there's also a unity between them. I mean, basically, I love you. I love you, God. You have to have the I, and then you have to have the love, and obviously you have to have God, and you makes it more personal. So there's a personal awareness, or awareness of a personal God that is also universal God. I mean, it's not just your God; it's everybody's God. But this God speaks to you as soul, and as God speaks to the soul of every individual. But the individual is retained, the individual souls are retained. And it's all connected with this thing about I am that I am, which the soul has consciousness of, as well as God having consciousness of I am that I am, therefore I think. So these two beings, soul and God, exist as one, but they also are separate. So we have the idea of the bride and the bridegroom, you know, that obviously you can take it any way which way you want. You know, you can, bride and bridegroom doesn't have to be man and woman, okay, or straight or heterosexual. It can be straight or gay or whatever you want it to be. It doesn't really matter. It's bride and bridegroom. It's yin and yang. That's what's important to remember in all this. I'm not going to get bogged down in political correctness, please. Anyway, it's so lower worlds that, you know what I mean. Anyway, so this is a basic pattern, and so I start off with that, and this is a kind of cosmology of the anthropogenesis, of the anthroposophist cosmology, as one might say, as I understand it anyway. And it's well, it's the oldest story in every narrative. You know, person meets person, they fall in love, they separate, they find each other again. You know, man meets boy, man falls in love with boy, man separates from boy, and man finds boy again. You know, and it's girl meets boy. You know, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't really matter. The point is that there is separation. In fact, actually, there is a state which I call primitive union, and primitive union is when soul is not aware of itself, even though it's united with God. There is no awareness of this situation. So, in order for that awareness to occur, soul has to descend, and here we follow the line of descent, and then it gets to the material, gets to the nadir of the situation, and then it ascends again back to a situation of unity. But this time, the soul is aware of its relationship with God. It's aware of itself. It's aware of God, and it's aware of its relationship with God. You see. So that's kind of the genesis of the that's the anthropogenesis, is when that happens, that occurs, that sort of moment occurs of awareness, basically. And that happens when the soul is restored to the supernal world. So this bar here represents the ineffable supernal worlds, right? And as I say, these bars are extended infinitely each end, okay? So don't take any notice of this schema. And then underneath that we have the etheric realms, and then there are realms underneath that, levels of consciousness underneath that, and they descend all the way to the astral level, and then the astral level is above the material level. So the astral level is the dreams and psychic phenomenon and psychism generally, I suppose. Really, again, all these bars are infinitely long. Okay, so now. The action of the demiurge and his help and his friends, the archons or whatever, they assist in the soul's descent into the material world, basically, where the soul is trapped for a time. And here this circle represents the consciousness of space and time. So soul is trapped in space and time, trapped in the astral psychic levels, trapped in the material level, trapped in the world of which we are sensible. And we basically, as a result of the Christ and the Holy Spirit and of the angels and saints, they are the spirit helpers. They help us to ascend back to the supernal realms. But, and this is very important, we ascend with increasing consciousness, whereas before, we started off with nothing, with no consciousness to speak of, and we had what little we had taken away from us. Okay, so we end up in minimal consciousness of spirit in the material and psychic levels, and then we ascend the various levels of consciousness with the help of Christ back to the heavenly realm where we're reunited with God, basically. And this is the great work. This is the this is the actual great work that we are here now in this little bubble of space and time, and we have lots of experiences. We get to know ourselves, and as a result of knowing yourself, you will begin the soul's ascent back up to heaven. Now, this is very much. As I understand it, the sort of theosophical, Rosicrucian, white light, great white brotherhood kind of view of things. It's a descent into darkness and then an ascent out of darkness, a restoration. So you have a unity, a separation, unity at this point, unity, separation here, and a restoration here, basically. So we have kind of like a sort of a loop, as it were, we descend into the depths in order to recover the heights and to be aware of the heights, because at this point, this primitive state, as I said, we don't have any awareness of it. It's like we're innocent, naive, if you like, innocent as in the garden. And then as a result of all our adventures in the lower realms, we go back to a restored state. But we have the wisdom that we have acquired during our sojourn in the so-called lower worlds, or the worlds of the demiurge. And here the demiurge is seen as part of the what actually makes us descend, sort of propels us along. If you imagine that we are a carriage of a train, car, I think you Americans call it, and the train is, we've got various different cars here. There's a car behind us and there's a car in front of us, and we are being pushed as we ourselves are pushing. So the train is heading down, and then it's heading back up again, because the same momentum, we are pushed and we push. The same momentum as it took us down into the lower worlds will take us back up again to the higher worlds, you see. So this is a sort of classical, quite modern Gnostic view of things, I think. I don't think it's got, well, it does have its roots in classical Gnosticism, but there is another way of looking at all this, which I've already covered actually. But I think that this model, this cosmological model, this journey of the soul into back down and then back up again, is the one that most mystery schools in Western Europe favour, because it does seem to make an awful lot of sense. I mean, that's why we're here. This model lends meaning, I suppose, to our lives, because the objective of our lives really is to go back up to the restored state of oneness with deity, with the divinitas, you see. But it's oneness with consciousness. It's a conscious oneness. And I suppose it is a development of the nous, a development of our awareness, that we're able to take our awareness back up to the restored state. So it's not just it's not just a return home. We're not just going from there back to there again. We're going from there to there, and we shall be different. We are not the same as we were when we first started. And this is a bit like in J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. I mean, the Hobbit starts, there in the innocence of the countryside idyll, and they go to Mordor, and then they travel back to Mordor. But because they've been because the hero has been wounded by the evil blade, they actually are never the same again. But they have acquired a new consciousness, and it is with this new consciousness that they are restored to the good God, to the supernal, ineffable realms. So I hope that that's sort of given you an idea. So I mean, just one extra point: if you're going to join a mystical order, that order, that group or whatever, their objective is to take you from here, you see, back up to here, and through giving you exercises with which to align yourself to the helpers that are there to take you back up again. So that's very important, that you align with the Christ consciousness and the Holy Spirit, because you can't do it yourself, can't do it on your own. I mean, you can travel so far through your own efforts, but then you have to have the efforts of the Holy Spirit that reaches down and you've gone part of the way, and the Holy Spirit or the Christ consciousness will take you the rest of the way, you see. So if you're going to join any sort of group, a Rosicrucian group, a Theosophy group, a Gnostic group, which is based on this model, then that's what they will teach you. That's what they'll expose you to. That's what they will get you to align yourself, to open your heart to the helpers, the light helpers that are going to take you back up to restoration. So this is certainly a view. This is certainly an excellent model for giving your life meaning and objective, and this is why you're doing the spiritual exercises, this is why you're doing the meditations, this is why you're doing the contemplations, this is why you're studying the Gnostic Nag Hammadi Gospels, you see, and fragments. And the language of the Gospels and the language of the fragments found in the Nag Hammadi library, they are all signposts. The language is signposting you to the restored state and explaining to you, your origins. Because, of course, as the Rastafarians say, you've got to know your roots. If you want to know where you're going to, you've got to know where you've come from. So they explain your roots. They explain how you got here. And then they signpost you to leaving here and going over to there, you see. But I say here and there, but of course you are as soul already here and there. You never actually left the restored state on one level, but your awareness will make this state that you're in, this relationship with God, a different relationship. It puts it on a different footing as it was then or as it is now, Courage, mon ami, because this is the great work as a lot of modern Gnostics see it.